Welcome to The Culture Bar. It's an arts and culture podcast series brought to you by HarrisonParrott. In our Journey Journals mini-series, colleagues from across the HarrisonParrott Group tell you about their career and share insights and advice about having a career in the music sector. Today we're talking to Laura Newey, who is an intern at Birdsong. What role do you have as an intern at Birdsong? What is it that you tend to do?
So I do a whole range of things really, whatever needs doing. I guess my main duties are the publishing administration side, so everything to do with managing our catalogue, preparing scores, uploading them to our online platform, keeping everything up to date, making sure all the details are correct. I also do quite a lot of our social media, and then final main part of my role is to do with research into anything that's like expanding into new potential areas or sort of brainstorming new stuff. So yeah, I get to do all sorts of things, which is really nice.
That's really interesting. You kind of get to know the people through their music as well. And how come you became interested in classical music? Ended up working with Birdsong?
I've always been really into music. I think I started playing the violin when I was 3, which is a bit insane in retrospect. Yeah, I studied music at uni, and then uni careers advice centre let me know about creative access and put me onto that, and then I found the Birdsong role advertised on there and thought that sounds perfect.
That sounds really cool. And so you studied music as well?
Yeah.
Where did you and what did you study?
So I did my undergrad at Oxford, which is like a sort of academic music degree. You can do some practical modules like composition and performance, but it's quite open. So it's more of a like essay-based music degree as opposed to going to conservatoire. And then I stayed on for a master's for 1 year, moved to London in 2022 and started working at Birdsong a few months later.
That's amazing. Do you still play the violin, just out of curiosity?
I actually don't. I switched to piano when I was about 12, and now I'm a singer as my sort of main performing side of things.
Really broad spectrum of things. That's awesome. Really cool. How do you think that your previous experiences then at Oxford and your skills prepared you for your role at Birdsong?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I think having like a real enthusiasm for classical music and new music especially has probably been the most helpful. I guess since it's an internship, there luckily isn't too much you need in the way of, prior experience. That's the great thing about creative access, is it gives you that sort of first rung on the ladder. And in a lot of ways, this is my first proper job in terms of an office job, long term. Although I did other sort of little internships while I was at uni, and I think that having that experience probably did help in terms of the atmosphere of like a small arts organisation, and also developing some basic skills relating to admin and just general transferable stuff like organisation and prioritising different tasks.
So how has it been at Birdsong so far? Tell us a little bit about your journey. You said you have a few other internships and small stuff like that. If you want to tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, I've done quite a random range of things. I did a 2-week internship at a film production company, independent production company, which was cool.
That's really cool.
And actually the sort of main director that they represented also writes all the music for her films, so that was quite cool. I spent a long time
That's really
one
cool.
day cataloguing all of her old drafts and things of her film scores, which was pretty cool.
Awesome.
And then I also worked as editorial assistant at a literary magazine, so quite a different.
Is that where your kind of interest for social media comes through? Because that's one of your roles.
Actually, I didn't do anything social media related there. I've very much had my introduction to that at Birdsong, which I was a bit daunted about. I feel like I've gained a lot of confidence in that area.
That's awesome. Do you enjoy it now?
I do, yeah. It's quite sort of fun and creative. Yeah, I like it a lot actually.
Quite different from the research task that you have as well, I'm guessing.
Absolutely,
which is, probably a good way to spread out your time, I guess, so you're more varied. So what do you feel like has been the most enjoyable part of your internship so far?
I mean, I enjoy the variety, definitely. Anything that relates to choral music, I'm always really happy when a task like that comes across my desk, because that's my sort of real passion and interest. Specialty, especially like new choral music, we represent a couple of different composers who specialise in that sort of area. Because I'm a singer part-time as well, get to experience new choral music from the other side, from the performer's side. So really cool. Then coming here and seeing, I don't know, how everything happens behind the scenes is really interesting.
Yeah, because you're truly like the first people to see the music, right? And
absolutely,
then seeing it come to life must be so interesting. I guess you're like a big part of the process of it as well, and the choral music is incredible. Like, it's truly one of those things that hits a different part of your ear when you listen to it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally agree. I think it's a really thriving area of contemporary music as well, and often like a particularly like healthy, thriving part of the industry.
Right. I also feel like it's related to like film music, and game music is very
for sure.
choral, which I really love. And so on the other side, what's been like kind of the most challenging part of your internship?
There was a big sort of information overload when I first started, because suddenly we've got all of these composers that I've got to get to grips with their whole career and their whole catalogue, a lot of new IT systems that we use, or I mean just generally how everything sort of runs, and all the procedures and how we do things. You know, it takes quite a while to feel like you're on top of all that stuff. Yeah, I think my time management skills have improved over the course of the internship. I found it quite difficult at first to work out, if I was asked to do 5 things, which one was the most urgent, which one needed, me to be incredibly forensic and detailed, and which ones can be done more quickly.
Definitely.
I think that's something I'm still struggling with a bit, but yeah.
I think that's like maybe a general thing in the music industry, because we have so many like artists and so many other tasks aside from that, and then trying to prioritize both of them is, I also find challenging.
Yes.
In a good way, in a way, because you do get to know yourself as well, and how you like to manage your time, and how it's easier for you to do those things. What would you say that a typical day?
I might spend a couple of hours doing stuff related to scores, so preparing pieces that our composers have sent us for publishing and upload, making sure all of our copyright lines are where they should be, there's no typos, making title pages, and then doing the whole process of uploading them. So at Birdsong we don't sell physical scores, we do everything digitally through Faber, who's our sub-publisher. Cool. So they have a whole quite complicated process for like uploading scores, making sure that all of the data is input correctly, so that it will show up on their website in the right way. Yeah,
that's really cool.
So that takes up a lot of my time, but then I might end up doing some social media in the afternoon, or writing web news. I always quite enjoy that. It's nice to, I don't know, the moment of like a new project or a new commission becoming publicised, I always find quite satisfying, knowing how much work has gone in behind the scenes to make it happen.
I can imagine. That sounds really rewarding. And do you tend to come into the office every time, or
I try to come in 1 day a week, and try to come in at the same time as other people on my team. But it's really flexible.
And that is like nice. One of the lovely things that I've also found at HP. Having the flexibility is lovely, and the office is also really lovely. So is someone in the industry that you would say you look up to, like a mentor, and who is that and why?
I don't know if I can name one person. I mean, everybody else on the Birdsong team is so experienced and so knowledgeable about the industry. I really admire that. It's the kind of like deep knowledge that you can only acquire through like being immersed in it every day for years, understanding all of the intricate relationships and how things work. There's a lot of sort of unspoken stuff that you just can't find out any other way than doing it, and I really admire people who in the music industry, in the publishing industry in particular. So I'm so impressed by people who like understand all the legal stuff and they like have a deep knowledge of the contemporary classical music scene, and they know everything about all their artists, and they can use overture like a boss.
It's just such a huge variety that I don't think people are aware of, and I think your internship is obviously quite unique because you're doing it with like a publishing company, but there's also like obviously we have different internships and there's such a huge variety of people that work in the music industry, and I think people don't quite realise accounts interns or HR interns. Or so you mentioned like overture and other things. What are some valuable tools or resources for someone that's looking to expand their knowledge on classical music? You obviously said that people are quite knowledgeable on your team. Is there anywhere specific that you go and you do your research and about composers? Or
I'm not sure there's so much like particular websites or tools in that sense. I don't know, I guess it depends on what your starting point is in terms of knowledge of classical music in general, or your motivation for learning more. But I would say going to concerts is one of the most important things you can do, and I should do it more. But hearing new music in person, you can often meet the composers because they obviously will always come along to a premiere, and sit in the audience, chat to them afterwards, chat to other concert goers who have an interest in this sort of thing, and you'll start to build up more of a picture of how everything works, where the exciting work is being done in the industry, and
And we should all probably go more to concerts. It's a kind of good reminder of why we all do this on a day-to-day basis.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, no,
and I think really it's so nice. It's also where we can get together, and that's something we all have in common, is enjoying music, right? Nice, I like it. How do you ensure that you stay updated with the latest like trends and developments in the industry?
I don't know, I think we already have quite an innovative model at Birdsong in terms of combining management and publishing and being like online only, that sort of thing. So I actually see other, like our competitors, sort of emulating aspects of that. But which is nice. But yeah, I think it's important to keep an eye on what other publishing companies are doing, both in terms of what you can see from the outside, but also staying in touch with like other contacts in the industry in terms of how they manage things internally. We have this relationship with Favour, which I think is really good for staying plugged into how things work elsewhere. I
do feel like Birdsong is quite ahead of its time when it comes to like publishing online and not doing loads of physical paper copies. Environmental things as well, quite important. So
yeah, for sure.
Do you have an interesting or lesser known fact about Birdsong?
Sure, I get probably about like contemporary classical music more generally. I could think of some like misconceptions that people have, or things
give it to me if you have it.
I think what I notice when I try to explain my job to people who aren't musicians is they tend to find it a bit confusing. I think a lot of people who aren't part of the industry are surprised to learn that classical musicians have agents at all, or like need management. That's often new information to them because they think of that as the preserve of Taylor Swift. They don't realise that classical music is like a really big industry. It's a big business basically, and that the artists are sort of stars and public figures in the same way as anybody else in the entertainment industry. So a lot of people then, following on from that, definitely don't know that composers also need management, or they might not even realise that there are classical composers still alive and working today, and that it's very much a living thing. And so they just haven't even considered the need for our industry to exist, or that the work that music publishers do. I think it's not well understood.
No, I think that's so true, especially like I think a lot of people just, as you said, like don't understand that people still make classical music. Think about like that we have new contemporary composers, which is super interesting. But
I guess it's on us to put our composers out there, give people the chance to interact with new classical music. It's really nice to have like polyarts as part of the HarrisonParrott family. I feel like they're a lot more plugged into more popular styles of music, or more sort of crossover stuff. I think we need to be a lot less scared of the crossover and the sort of bleeding across of different genres.
Definitely. I think it makes it classical music in a way like keeps instruments alive.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there's not instruments in pop music, definitely not, but there's way less of it in more like electronic, especially like in recent days. So I think like combining the classical with the like new contemporary pop music makes pop music even cooler and more like, I won't say it's not skillful to like make it on computer, but there's like a specific skill and interest in classical instruments.
Oh, absolutely,
so,
yeah.
So that's been like super interesting. Have you ever tried like composing anything yourself?
Yeah, I used to do a bit of composing actually when I was in school, and I did the National Youth Orchestra like Young Composers scheme, and then I don't know, it just sort of petered out. I guess I got busy with other things.
Yeah.
Started uni, I didn't really have time, a lot of spare time. I got into singing, and then that sort of took up all of my free time. I sometimes think, maybe I should
yeah, I mean, why not?
reopen Sibelius on the laptop and just have a play around.
Yeah. Oh, it's never too late to pick it back up again. And
no, I guess so.
Yeah, if you're playing loads of instruments as well, you probably know like a little bit more about what to compose. So how does that actually work? I'm curious myself. Like, do you compose for each instrument, or is it like a general?
I guess that's one of the hardest things, because like no one can play every instrument or have like expert level knowledge on what works and what doesn't. I don't know. I think you need to. I guess everybody also has a different process for how they were going to compose like a massive orchestral piece. Some people might start on the piano and then they work out much further down the line who's going to play what, etc. Other people might, I guess, start from a much more like instrumentally based place, but. I don't know. I guess I think when I was, a teenager writing music, I didn't think nearly enough about the experience of the players. Whether they would find what I was writing like enjoyable or natural to play, or if I'd, given the violas like a really boring part throughout the entire piece, for instance, or I'd written something like really unfriendly for the trumpets because I just didn't know anything about like the possibilities or the limits of the instrument. So I guess it's probably a lifelong thing, and getting feedback from players and that sort of thing.
Well, if it sounds good. Just to pivot a little bit, when you were a child, what was your dream career, and how do you feel like, or do you even feel like the Birdsong internship like contributes to that?
Sure, I think I had like a million different dream careers when I was a kid. I really thought I was going to be like an author, an artist, a violinist, composer, like, I don't know, zookeeper, like all at once. There's infinite hours in the day. I was gonna do all of these things. But I mean, definitely they all skewed towards the creative side of things. I was always massively into music, so I think working at Birdsong fits in with that pretty well, actually. Maybe
That's
not in
going.
the way that I would have envisaged when I was 7 years old, but
yeah, that's really nice. Is your family at all like musical, or how did you get into it?
Yeah, no, they're not really. I think my mum's sort of story that she always tells is that she was a smart kid and good at everything at school, but then was just completely tone deaf and was told to like mime in choir and stuff like that. And she, vowed that her child would be good at music, so she, started me on lessons early and took me to concerts and stuff, and I guess I just really took to it and really loved it.
That's really awesome. Thank you for listening to Journey Journal's mini-series, brought to you by HarrisonParrott. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow us or rate our show.